we can love ourselves through all the flaws and the messiness, right? We can love ourselves if our house isn't cleaned. We can love ourselves if we don't have makeup on, right? We can love ourselves if we don't go through the day perfectly. That's really caring about yourself. And when you do mess up, it's saying, you know what? It's okay. It's going to happen. We're human first. We're human first no matter what. And just letting yourself have that grace for yourself and showing yourself that compassion. That's what it really means to love yourself. And that's what I want to teach women and I want to see more of in the world.
Welcome to the Be a Better You podcast. I'm your host, Allison K. Dagny, a passionate women's empowerment coach dedicated to guiding you towards your highest potential. Join me each week as I dive into empowering strategies and mindset shifts to help you rise above obstacles and thrive in every aspect of your life, empowering you to reach your goals, unleash your true potential, and live life on your own terms. Learn how to unlock your inner strength with tools, tips, and techniques to transform into the best version of you. Tune in and let's embark on this journey together. Your empowerment starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Be a Better You podcast. I am your host, Allison K. Dagny, and today I have a really important guest that I want to share with you, and we have a amazing topic that I'm super excited to bring about because this is going to help you along your journey. And I'm going to turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself to the audience, and then we're going to kind of get into your story, and then we'll just dive right into the topic of today.
Awesome. Well, Allison, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me here. It's really an honor to be part of your community and share with your audience today. So thank you for that. Yeah, I'm Elizabeth Foster. I am a transformative self-love coach. And I always say experience first, right? I have been where the women I work with are today. And it's exactly why I do what I do, is to help support other women to really get grounded in them into their own beings, right? And to really love themselves from the inside out. A few years back, I could honestly say I did not like the person I was looking at in the mirror. And so I had to really sit with all of that. And I call that the messy middle. I had to sit in the messy middle, sit in my pain and really get comfortable with that pain and help it. You know, they say everything's what you make, right? You can either, sit in your own demise and be victim, or you can do something about it and turn it around. And so I decided to do, the latter, and pick myself up and really figure out what I needed to do to better my life. And part of that transformation was changing careers. I was in corporate for 20 years and decided to step out of that and wanted to give back and use my experience to help others. And so I decided to go into coaching and to work with other women who are struggling in their own, self-worth and really struggling with who am I, where do I belong?
Yeah.
Them find their way.
Okay.
So
Thank you. And thank you so much for being here. And I'm hoping that you will be able to share some of your story, because I also believe that self-love is so important. And I was like you, I did not like that person and I did not love myself. I truly didn't. I do now, but it took some active practice and work to change that, because there had been so much in my past. So tell us a little bit about your experience that led you here. And if you don't mind to share some of that with us.
absolutely. Where would you like me to start?
Wherever you feel like starting is fine with me.
Well, the story I share is really going back to the end of my marriage. I got married early. I had children early. So I met my husband first year college. I was just about 19 and he was 18. Um, and, basically babies. And at 22, I found myself pregnant and completely unprepared for what all of that meant. And so, followed the normal trajectory of getting married and getting the house and figuring life out and jumping into a job. Fast forward 20 years, um, I was looking around and one day and just was like, what am I doing? Like I didn't really understand who I was anymore. I just kind of got lost in this role of being wife and mother and just kind of doing what was best for the greater good, so to speak, versus really understanding what it is I wanted, who I was. And, I hit a wall and I said, listen, I have to either keep going and, have regrets or make a decision to walk away and figure out who this person is I'm looking at in the mirror
Mm.
and really start liking who I am, really understanding what I want and need and going after it.
Mhm.
Um, I wouldn't say my marriage was the healthiest. I was married to an alcoholic and what I claim to be a narcissist for
Mhm.
20 years. I was very lonely, really sad and unhappy. I felt lost. I didn't feel like I was enough or I mattered. I didn't even really know, what a true healthy relationship was at that point, honestly. Um, and I was just checking all the boxes. Everything looked pretty from the outside, but inside I was crumbling and falling apart.
Yeah.
And so I packed a bag and I left everything. I left my home, I left my marriage, um, and I decided to live with mom for a few months and really start figuring out what I was going to do next. And from there, um, I unpacked a lifetime worth of pain, and realized I was a horrible people pleaser. I was an alcoholic. I was really just a complete mess and unsure of what I needed to do. And so I kept drinking at that point. I was drinking a couple liters a week, um, and just morning to night, just completely intoxicated and unsure of, what I wanted to do and was just really destructive and
Mm.
doing things that were really unhealthy. And to one point where I was trying to throw myself out of a moving vehicle. And thankfully, a friend of mine was kind enough to hold my shirt and keep me in the vehicle and decided to drop me off on my mother's lawn half naked, where my mother said, you need help, and put me on a plane to rehab the next day.
Mm.
I would say that's the point in my life where my healing really began and where I really kind of was woken up and realized I couldn't blame this on anybody else anymore. I blamed my drinking on my ex, kind of blamed a lot of things on my ex. And at that point, I had to realize he wasn't the one to blame. I had made those choices for myself
Mhm.
and I needed to do something about it.
Yeah.
And so through the process of rehab and AA and other means, I learned how to sit in my pain. I learned healthier coping skills, and I learned how to fall in love with myself and who I was again, to forgive myself, really forgive myself,
Yeah.
to let go of all the guilt and the pain and to really start understanding what it is I wanted and needed and living that way, being really authentic and showing up for myself and being my own best friend. Um, and through that process, I learned a ton. And it wasn't easy. It was a lot of hard days, but boy, it was a lot easier than how I was living before. And yeah, and so through that process, I changed, obviously. And that's when I really decided, once I became really, I wouldn't say healed because I think we're always growing and healing and evolving and changing, but I think I got to a place where I was doing a lot better. And I realized that what was serving me before wasn't continuing to serve me. And I sold IT hardware for 20 years. And it was very much a man's world, and it was very hardcore and aggressive. And so while I was going through this process, I realized this isn't what I want to do. This isn't who I want to be. And so I happened to be on Facebook scrolling one afternoon, and I saw this coach on there offering coaching training. And I said, yeah, I'm going to check this out. And it was like a 5-day challenge. And before you know it, I was signed up like just like that, signed up, and I'm in like this coaching training. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. And they say start before you're ready. Well, man, I sure did. And I've been doing that every day since, like just continuing to grow and evolve in this journey of coaching. And it has been one of the greatest gifts I've ever given myself. So here I am.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story. And I love those kinds of stories, as you know, because you've read my book. And that's how we connected at that and through some other people. But those kind of transformational stories, right? Because everybody wants to see the person who is struggling to make it. Like we want them to make it. And, we're rooting for each other. We're rooting for that person to like have that moment and, transform. And, a lot of times we have to hit that breaking point like you did, or hit a rock bottom place. And the beauty of it is that we go through this like pressure cooker, but we come out these amazing products in the end. So it's always, I love the analogy of the sword that has to be forged in fire before it can be the beautiful blade that it is, right? And so I think about that for so many people who have these transformational stories, yours included, because they're just so powerful, and not only powerful for us, but for others, because they get to see that it's possible, right? If somebody's struggling in the same ways that you were, in the same ways that I was, that it is possible for them to shift that. Now, the big thing with you is self-love. And I love this because self-love, to me, I truly believe that self-love is the foundation for healing, recovery, self-development, all the things, right? I truly think you can't skip over it. It's actually the first thing I help my clients with, the very first thing in my programs, because if you try to skip over self-love, it's you're always going to come back to that. You're going to have to come back to it anyway. So like, let's not skip over it. Let's get through it first, right? And it'll be that springboard for everything else that you need to do. So how did you know, like, that self-love was the thing? Like, this is the thing that I want to do and help people with. How did you know? Or like, what was that like moment for you?
Yeah, great question. I think for the first half of my life, looked on the outside of me for who I was, right? I looked outside for validation. I let everybody decide what was right for me. And I really, put all of my worth on the outside of me. I let everyone else determine my worth. And when I went through the process of healing, I realized that one of the foundational pieces of that was really getting grounded in myself and really liking myself. And I had to first like myself to love myself, but I had to really like myself. And part of that was forgiving myself and being able to forgive myself for past mistakes and things I had done and the guilt and all of that stuff that eats you up, right? I had to go through that process and then start liking myself and being kind to myself, right? You'll be amazed how many women I ask, what do you like about yourself? And they can't answer it. But I say, what don't you like about yourself? And they'll give me a list a mile long.
Mm.
And that just proves, right? We have so much work to do as a community. And when I went through this process, I'll never forget, I went through the same exercise. And I also went to therapy and worked with coaches. And my therapist asked me that question, what do you like about yourself? And I said, I don't know. She said, yeah, you do. What do you like about yourself? And it was a pivotal moment for me because I said, I like that I was willing to push past fear enough to get to know myself and really understand who I was.
Wow.
And she said, okay, I think that's a good first step. And I said, yeah. I said, you don't have to have everything perfect to love yourself. It's a common misconception, right? We can love ourselves through all the flaws and the messiness, right? We can love ourselves if our house isn't cleaned. We can love ourselves if we don't have makeup on, right? We can love ourselves if we don't go through the day perfectly. That's really caring about yourself. And when you do mess up, it's saying, you know what? It's okay. It's going to happen. We're human first. We're human first no matter what. and just letting yourself have that grace for yourself and showing yourself that compassion. That's what it really means to love yourself. And that's what I want to teach women and I want to see more of in the world.
Yeah, I love that. And we really do need more of that in the world because, even just in our societies, there's so much comparison to others of like, if you're not doing this, or if somebody looks like that, or you act this way, but somebody acts a different way. And it's like we're constantly pitting ourselves against each other instead of just lifting each other and highlighting, like, hey, yeah, I might not actually be real good at that, but you are, and that's great. And here's what I'm good at, and that's great too, right? So we can complement each other, like compliment, not necessarily like verbally, is not what I mean, but like we complement our skills and the things that we each have it uniquely, which, then we erase that comparison to other people. Because I've heard this phrase, comparison is the thief of joy. And, we have to, I believe, in order to truly love ourselves, isn't just about like self-care and like, and those are things that are important. I truly believe that they're important, but it's way deeper than that. And I think sometimes people get it confused and they think, oh, to love myself is selfish. Or if I love myself, that means I'm taking time away from other people. Or, there's these kind of stories that we've been told and conditioned to believe about what self-love is. So what are some things that you would tell people are like, okay, here is what I believe this definition of self-love is, or some things that you could do to show your self-love?
I think when you can go out into the world and no matter who you're talking to, show up as your true self and be vulnerable, that's loving yourself, right? I think we have to be okay in our own skin, right? No matter what it looks like, no matter how it shows up, we have to be okay and feel okay with ourselves. I think that there's a lot of us, to your point, that sit in this comparison mode. But when we really connect with people, we learn we're more alike than we even know, right? And hey, listen, you're not supposed to be the best at everything. That's okay.
Yeah.
I suck at technology and spreadsheets, but guess what? I know who's great at it, and I love that they're great at it because they help me. So, it's more when we come together and use our community and leverage that community to better ourselves that we learn that we all have gifts that we can offer. And
Yeah.
that's what makes us so wonderful as humans.
Mhm.
And, I think from a self-love perspective, there are certain things that we have to really kind of look at. And to your point, it's more than self-care. Absolutely, self-care is important and it's something that I suggest. But listen, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give what you don't have. So I think, in my program and what I teach is, okay, well, who are you? What do you enjoy doing? What do you value? How do you like to spend your time? Right? Because it starts with getting to know yourself, like truly understanding who you are. Because then when you know that, then you can really put more time and focus around that. And that's going to lift your spirits and your energy tenfold when you're surrounding yourself with things you enjoy, people you that truly love and support you, right? I think it's important to really be able to come from a place of compassion versus comparison,
Yeah.
and really be able to recognize the things you do well, right? Understand your zone of genius and all the gifts that you do have to offer, um, being able to be in alignment, right? And talk kindly to yourself, right? We are our own worst critics and we're always, just judging ourselves and showing ourselves this fierce, you know, like, oh, I'm not enough. Oh, I don't matter. Oh, what if she's better? And instead, what if we flip the script and rewrite the narrative on that, right? What if instead we say, you know what? I am enough. I do matter.
Mhm.
Because the way you talk to yourself is the way you show up for yourself and the way you show and present yourself to the world. And that matters,
Yeah.
right? Because how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So being able to show up as your best self, which means showing up as your true self and living a life on purpose, aligned with the things that bring you joy and matter to you.
Yeah, I love that. And that you put that so perfectly because, I remember when I got out of my emotionally abusive relationship and I really truly didn't know who I was. I was like, I don't know who I am. I truly don't. Like there were certain things about me that I knew I liked and enjoyed and, wanted to do. But a lot of the things were really muted or clouded because of what my ex wanted and because of what his influence was. And I went along with it as this, like you said, this people pleaser, right? To do the things that he wanted. And it wasn't me. And so there was a lot of like deconditioning that had to be done. And I explored my values too, because it was like, I don't really know what I value, but I knew that when I figured out my values and then I started to embody those values and live by them and alignment, like you were saying, then it was like, oh, wait, now I actually am starting to know who I am. So, you know, that being your true self, I couldn't agree more, is so important because I've worked with so many women who are have such little self-worth and are so afraid to be their true selves because they're like, well, if I am me, people won't like that version of me, or I'll be rejected, or I'll be abandoned, right? But the greatest gift you can give yourself is you loving yourself, right? And then when you break through that fear and you're like, wait a second, I'm just going to be me and I'm going to show up. And then you're like, and then you see other people light up around you and they're like, oh, wait, wow, you're amazing. Like this is the true you. You start attracting the people who really are meant for you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And we're creatures of habit. We are like so conditioned into our routines and habits that we kind of find ourselves just doing the same things we've always done, right? And staying comfortable. But when we can really kind of stop and just ask ourselves, is this serving me? Is this something I really want to be doing? Is this in alignment with what I really care about and value? It allows us to create space for something different, right? And when we do that, amazing things start to happen because we start shifting, right? We start making those changes and we start really being intentional and showing up for ourselves and saying, wow, you know what? I haven't done this before, but I really like this. So sometimes it's a matter of dipping our toes, doing little steps and trying new things and really putting ourselves out there in a different way. Because when we do that, we find that there are other parts of us that we haven't identified with because we haven't allowed ourselves that space to really learn about those parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
So I would always encourage people to give yourself some time and space to really explore and have fun and really learn more about yourself.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I actually talked about this on one of my other episodes, and you saw this and we're going to talk about the self-love lounge, because I talked about this in a post where I went to a rage room and I got all my anger out. And I'd always been the person that would be like, I'm not an angry person. And I just don't get upset easily. Like that was just like how I would talk like for my whole life. And this happened recently, right? Because, even as coaches, we're on our self-development and we're always working to be the best versions of ourselves that we can. And I went to this rage room because something triggered me in my personal life. And I was like, and one of my friends, mentor coach said, I think you might have some anger in there you need to get. I was like, like I'm not angry. I'm not an angry person. I said that same thing. And then I was like, well, if she's saying this, maybe there's something to it. So I booked an appointment and I went to a rage room and I smashed the shit out of printers and glass jars and clay pigeons. And I
For
was
you.
sweating and tears were coming out of my eyes. I wasn't crying, but I was literally like, just like the cortisol was just pouring out of me. And
Yeah.
I literally the next day, it was almost like, I don't even know how to describe this. It was almost like this boss bitch who'd been smothered and shoved down in me for years just came in and picked up this little pushover version of me and moved her out of the way and just stepped inside my body.
Love that.
I
Oh,
said,
I love
but it was like exactly what you were saying about making space for things. So I did what you said. I was like, oh, I'm going to experiment with this. Maybe who knows what's going to happen. And after I did it, it made space for that confident, empowered, take no shit version of me that had been suppressed for so long. So that anger I'm not saying you need to go around and be angry all the time, but you have to let your emotions pass through. And I wasn't doing that with anger. So it's exactly what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
guess what? I'm like, wait a second. I deserve to have my voice heard. I deserve this or that. I don't want people pushing me around anymore. Right. And that's self-love.
Yeah.
Like that is an embodiment of self-love.
I love that. And people are so afraid of anger, for the record. People are so
Yeah.
afraid to be angry, right? Because they feel like, oh gosh, then I'm bad.
Mhm.
And you know what? Anger is a human emotion,
Yeah.
just like joy, just like sadness, just like all the other ones. It's there because we're supposed to feel it and we're supposed to release it. And
Yeah.
if we do, it doesn't have to be as dramatic as we make it, right? We can handle and express anger in a healthy way. And that's
Exactly.
another thing I teach, right? It's okay to be angry.
Yeah.
It's just allowing ourselves that space to have that outlet and to allow
Yeah.
ourselves to feel that emotion. So
Yeah.
I'm so excited that you did that for yourself. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And like you said, there's a place and a way to healthily express it, right? I didn't go to the person who pissed me off and beat them. Like I went to a rage room and directed my anger in an appropriate fashion, and it served me very, very well. So I love that we can make these connections about how to love yourself and make space for ways to love yourself, right? And experiment and play around with these things and see what comes up for you. So let's talk about, I want to tell my audience about the Self-Love Lounge. So I'm going to let you talk about where this came from, where this idea came from, and what it is so that we can share it with everybody here.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, through my work as a transformative self-love coach, up to this point, a lot of my coaching has all been one-on-one programs, and I've worked with people one-on-one, and I absolutely love that work. And there is such an importance behind that work. One key area that was missing for me and that I wanted to build was a sense of community. Because yes, one-on-one is wonderful and it gives you that opportunity to really heal and to share and to do that. But the community was built based on the notion that if we can all come together and love each other and support each other and show up as our true selves and be able to really share and contribute to others, it allows for that missing piece that a lot of times, as we're going through the self love journey, we're missing. We tend to isolate, we tend to seclude, right? We tend to, just put all of our eggs in one basket, so to speak, and work with a coach or a therapist. But we're not really reaching out to a community and saying, hey, what are you doing? Hey, I'm really struggling with this. Have you been through this? Can you help me walk through this? Hey, can we just talk? And that is a fundamental piece. When I went through sobriety, AA was the foundation that helped me get sober. And it wasn't because I worked with one person, it was because I had a community. It became a friendship, a family of people that were there to support each other at any point in any time, where you could pick up the phone and say, I'm having a hard day, right? Or you could go and grab a coffee. And I wanted to create that for the self-love group, right? Because you know what? There is nothing like being able to have a community to lean on and to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm struggling. Can you help me? And in this community, everybody's welcomed. You don't have to look a certain way, act a certain way, be a certain person. Every single human has worth and is welcomed. And it is created for diversity, for all of those who want a place to feel like they can come and just exhale, right? You don't have to, you could just come and breathe and be you and be accepted and loved for who you are. In this community, I have created a place where you can come and take advantage of connecting with other women, like-minded, who have been through where you are, or going through what you're going through, or maybe just are starting out and are scared and just need someone else to know that they matter, right? And to be there. Um, in this community, we have so many wonderful coaches, Allison, you being one of them, who are there and they bring all of their own, specialty, right? Whether it's you with your human design, me with my self love, we have a spiritual coach who goes through and can help with spiritual healing and talk through chakras and getting grounded and meditation. We have a belief coach that walks through, removing your limiting beliefs. We have a coach that helps with subconscious work. So we have a community with all different various talents that are there to be there for you, to support you and love you. We also in this, we have, recorded video trainings that you can watch on different topics such as boundaries, trust, forgiveness. There's all types of different trainings available to you that you can watch at your own pace, at your own time. We have group coaching once a week where each coach in the community takes a turn leading that and teaching and doing breakout sessions and different exercises. And that's weekly. And then we also have book club that we meet twice a month and we pick different books and we talk through it. And I'm sure I'm missing more, but there is just a ton involved in this community, and I'm very proud of it. We've been going for about a month now, and so far it's just been a wonderful experience, and I've gotten some great feedback, and I'm just looking and excited to continue to spread the word and to continue to grow it.
Yeah, I love it so much. And I love that you've asked me to be a part of it. And it's so much fun. And I'll tell you too, and I've told you this and some of the other people there, that I am learning things. I'm a coach myself, but I'm in there learning things too, right? This isn't just about like people who aren't coaches who need help healing. Like I'm getting information and new ideas and tools and things from other coaches in these group coaching calls too that I show up to, which is fantastic, right? So when, I'm sitting here thinking about this, and this is why I wanted to have you on this episode today, is because I want to share it with everybody, because I think it is something people should not be passing up. Because when you have this much access to coaches, right, who charge, like me, like some of my programs are upwards of $3,000, right? Not all of them, but some of them. And I know probably a lot of the other coaches in there are the same, right? To get into a one-on-one coaching program with somebody, and you're able to come into the Self-Love Lounge, get all this information, get these tools, get access to these coaches, right, for a very minimal price. So I don't know what your pricing is. So can you share that with everybody? Because I'm just sitting here thinking, to join a book club, to have access to all these resources, to have, weekly access to coaches for an hour, like, what do you
Yeah.
charge to get into the
And
self?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of the other reasons that this was built, right? Because I want to be able to reach anybody who wants help. And through one-on-one coaching, we know it comes with a price tag. We know it's more VIP and a little bit more exclusive and expensive. And so the idea of this was to allow those that couldn't necessarily afford those expensive one-on-one programs to still be able to have a place and reach that they could afford and go and get that support and help. So I have created this community at a minimal cost. So right now, because it's so new and I really just want to get people in there experiencing it, the pricing is $47 a month. I mean, you cannot go anywhere and participate and get everything you get in this group for $47 a month.
Agree.
And I kept it at this price on purpose because I want everybody to take advantage, to get in, try it out, see it for themselves, and to be able to start connecting and getting the help and having the resources they need to better their lives.
Yeah. And I think, that is so beautiful. And, to think about in terms of, not everybody has the financial means to invest in that, but this is something that you can do pretty easily, for most people, pretty easily, to invest in yourself and your own healing. So, if you're somebody who's listening who is absorbing and digesting all these like podcast episodes and YouTubes and books and stuff like that, well, this is just a more
It's a
what
one-stop shop, right? It's all
yes,
you're
yes,
getting everything you need
yeah,
in one place. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? So if you're on this journey of healing and self-discovery and to really feel more confident and to build your self-worth and self-love,
Mhm.
this gives you every tool necessary to be able to do that. And the best part is you can do it from anywhere. It's all on Zoom. Everything is on Zoom. And you can pick and choose what you participate in, but everything's there. All these resources are available to you at any point in any time. All you
Yeah.
have to do is click and you're in. And you
Yeah.
get to participate and join in all of it.
Yeah, I think it's fabulous because, like I said, like I've even gotten so much out of it as a coach that's being in a supportive role. I'm still getting
Me too.
help too, and you as well. And I know all the other coaches are too. So, that's why I was like, Liz, we've really got to, expand this to other people so that they can join us in there, right? Like you can meet all of us in these Zoom meetings and digest all of the resources and stuff like Louisa Anderson in there with her chakra stuff, and I'm learning all about the chakras and like how they can help, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I love everything that's in there. So I really think it's such a you know critical piece, right? The whole self-love thing, and to have a group of people who are really focused on that and who really are heart-centered people who show up every week to and more, right? In between, even like making posts and like things like that in there to support people. Because you can come in and ask questions, and then your coaches are going to respond and give you ideas.
Anytime. You have like 24/7 access to that support,
Yeah.
and to that network. It's just amazing. I'm telling you, if I had this when I was going through my own healing journey, it probably would have expedited my healing tenfold. I wish I had had something like this when I was
Yeah.
going through.
Yeah.
And to your point, I am learning so much. I mean, I sit in some of these group sessions and I'm blown away by all that I'm learning and taking away. And it's just such a supportive and loving community. All these women are amazing and just so wonderful and full of love.
Yeah. It's so great. And I'm so happy that you have put this out there. And I'm so grateful for you to have invited me to be a part of it so that I can share my gifts with the world too. And also, learn from everybody else in there. Because again, you and I both are aligned on this idea that self-love is the key piece. And so if you're listening and you're somebody who struggles with this, or you feel like that, you have been that kind of people pleaser, or you don't really feel like you can be your true self, or you have these kind of unseen things that are in the way and you don't know why you can't stand up for yourself, or you don't know why you can't quit certain behaviors, or whatever that might be. This is a really great place to begin. It doesn't mean you have to be here forever for the rest of your life, but you're going to meet some wonderful people and make some amazing connections and learn some awesome things to help you along your journey.
Absolutely. And I know for me, we've all already became very close.
Mhm.
And it's just really cool to see like everybody like connect separately, but then collectively. And it's wonderful. And to your point, there's no commitments. No one is saying you have to stay for any length of time. You come in, you try it, you explore, right? Let it serve you for the time it needs to. But there is no obligations. And I do that intentionally as well, because none of this is about, me getting rich or making a ton of money. This is for me to give back and to help women show up and be able to live their best lives.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is all I'm for.
Yeah, and I want to, you said like to give back, and I know that that is really important to you too. So tell me a little bit about that long-term goal to give back that you mentioned earlier before we started recording.
Yeah, so my long-term goal for this community is to be able to raise it and to get it to a place where I can start taking a portion of the proceeds and giving back to local women shelters for women that are really struggling to support themselves and their families and who just need a little bit of hope, right? And so if I can get to that point, that is my greatest gift I can give myself and to everyone in the community, is to be able to give back to others in need. And this, I feel like, would be a great way to do that. So please jump in, join in, and help out.
Yeah, and I've always had that dream for myself too, and it just always seemed so far out of reach, but now that you're talking about it, I'm like, wait, I can actually contribute to this just by getting the word out and like helping other
Yes.
people. And
Yeah.
this just becomes like part of a dream that I've always had as well. So I love that because you know my story and you know the background that I've experienced. And I never needed the support from a shelter, but I know there are so many women out there who do and who don't have the support that they need. And if we can like make this a win-win, right? Like everybody's winning when you join the Self-Love Lounge because you're getting something, we're getting something, the collective is getting something, everybody is winning. So, I don't know. I just felt like this was an important conversation that I wanted to bring out for everybody and present it so that people know that it's there because sometimes we just don't feel like we have the support or we don't feel like we can reach out to people. But in here, you can do that.
Yes. And
Yeah.
thank you, Allison. This has just been so wonderful. And I really appreciate you allowing me to be on the show and sharing me with your audience and spreading the word about the Self-Love Lounge.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. And we're going to put the links to your Instagram and Facebook pages and the show notes, plus a link to the Self Love Lounge if people want to get in there and sign up and then start to get all of the benefits out of that amazing group. So if you're interested, check out the links in the bottom and you'll be redirected to wherever you need to go. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with our community before we wrap up?
I think the biggest thing for me is I just want every single woman that's listening to know you are enough and you do matter. And it's not selfish to do something kind for yourself. It's okay to show up and to do something for you because then you have so much more to give. So do this small favor for yourself. Sign up, join this amazing group of women at the Self Love Lounge. I cannot wait to see you there. And I'm so excited to share and give.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more thing, because I forgot. I always ask every guest, and I don't want to leave you out. Every guest gets the same question at the end of my podcast. So I am going to put you on the spot a little bit because I didn't pre-warn you. But is there anything that you would be willing to share with our audience about you that not a lot of people know about you? It can be anything.
Hmm.
Like people within your immediate circle probably know, but maybe the extended circle doesn't know. Like a hobby or like an interest or something like that.
Well, I am a big kid. And so outside of work, I'm not as cool as collected. I love to be silly as much as possible. I'm very tapped into my inner child, and a lot of the times I will dance and sing ridiculously while I'm making dinner. I love to just do childlike stuff, whether it's coloring or painting, playing games. And so I guess my children would say that that's probably something I don't share with everybody, but definitely a big part of who I am.
Love that. I love that. I need to do more of that. Like I think sometimes because I do have a lot of interest in those kinds of things. I get called cringy a lot by my kids, so I think that probably leads a little bit to my silliness. But like,
Yeah.
that's so cringe, right? But I have teenagers, but the thing is, I know that there's probably more space for me to do some of those things. So I'm glad you brought that up as a little reminder and nudge to those of you listening as well. You know, tap into your creativity, your inner child. And that also is a really good way to love yourself because it connects you back to who you are at a
You ever
really
want to laugh? Instead of like when you get out of your car, instead of like walking to the door somewhere, skip. So I do this
in
thing. I get
public.
out of,
In
I get out
public.
of the car and I just start skipping and waving, right? And I'm like, why do I do that? Because one, it makes me happy and makes me start laughing.
Yeah.
It boosts, it's a great mood booster. And two, I everyone around me is laughing and smiling and having fun with me. So I'm like, it's spreading joy,
Yeah.
right? So get out of your car today and skip instead of walk.
Oh
See
my
what
gosh,
happens.
I love that. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Again, please check out the links in the show notes and reach out to Liz, reach out to me if you have any questions at all about the Self-Love Lounge, and we will direct you where you need to go. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.